welcome to Bender Arena in Washington, D.C. on the campus of American University. As today we have a top-notch women's basketball matchup between some familiar foes as the Eagles will host the Tribe of William and Mary. Good afternoon, I'm Dan Legnato, joined today by Nick Papadis. As the Eagles and the Tribe both coming in off victories. For the Eagles, their first home win came on Wednesday against UMBC. They look to make it 2 in a row today. As for William and Mary, coming in winners of 5 in a row, looking to make it an even 6. And as I said, these two teams have seen each other a couple times before, Nick.
Yeah, Dan, this is the 41st meeting of the two teams. They played a significant amount back in the CAA days. They met up last year, bringing that back a little bit. 26-14, the series record in favor of American, but William and Mary picking up the win last year.
Now, the Eagles hope to get a little bit of revenge here on their home court this year, as the Eagles left the CAA following the 2000-2001 basketball season. For more on what the Eagles are bringing into this matchup, we'll now turn it over to the third member of our crew, Emma Prawl.
Thanks, guys. One key to today's game is going to be the Eagles' defense. AU is ranked in the top 4 in the conference in overall scoring defense, opposing field goal percentage, and opposing three-point field goal percentage. And they're going to have to keep that run of strong play going against a Terrier team that is 0-10 when they score less than 60 points, but 5-0 when they score more than 60. After the break, we'll have starting lineups live from Bender Arena here on the Patriot League Network. Thanks, guys. So I'm standing by with Coach Jebbia. Now, Coach, I heard you and your assistants calling for a lot of ball screens. I think you're a little upset you weren't getting them. What do you think adjustment they can, and what improvement can they give to your offense?
Well, our offense, yeah, I just think we've been attacking a lot against their transit or their pressure, their press. So we've been scoring a lot that way. We haven't really run a half-court offense that much so far. But I just think us breaking their zone and setting ball screens within the zone and attacking the middle, I think will help us more in the second half.
And defensively, what kind of game plan can you even draw up when you're faced with someone who's such a size mismatch like you're dealing with today, especially down on the post?
I think just beating her down the floor and getting in position before she can, and just working. I mean, we have 4 posts that we can go to work her, and I think we just have to keep rotating them in and tiring her out.
All right, great. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
We'll send it back now to Nick and Dan in the booth.
Live from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., it's Patriot League Women's Basketball on the Patriot League Network on Campus Insiders. Alongside Dan Legnato, I'm Nick Pappas, bringing you today's action, and a big one as the Eagles coming in off a big win, and Holy Cross coming off a loss to the Army West Point Black Knights.
Yeah, as you said, the Eagles coming off a really big win, commanding victory over the Lafayette Leopards by 25 points. Some good contributions from the usual suspects, Cecily Carl and Emily Kinniston, there for the Eagles. On the other hand, you said the Crusaders coming off that defeat up against Army West Point, but they played it close, kept it single digits, just an 8-point loss, and big performances for their usual suspects as well, Lauren Manis and Infinity Thomas Wahid.
Yeah, you mentioned Lauren Manis, really the key to this offense, and what does she bring to the table?
Well, as a freshman, I think the Crusaders have gotten more than they could have ever expected from Manis. As you can see, averaging almost 13 points per game and 8 rebounds per game, certainly has not been phased at all by the change in level from high school to college, and she looks to take the Patriot League by storm over these next 3.5 or so seasons.
And on the other side for the Eagles, you take a look at Cecily Carl. She's really had a couple big games lately, and a double-double in the last game against Lafayette.
Yeah, her 4th career double-double, 2nd of this season, 16 points and 10 rebounds in that big Eagles victory. And she's been huge for them because despite being a big, she gives the Eagles actually a lot of versatility. She can pop out, knock down a 3. We've seen it many times, especially here in Bender Arena. And she really gives the Eagles that extra weapon. And again, she could really be a force to be reckoned with in the Patriot League for a couple more years.
Well, the Eagles are 5-2 in conference play. The Crusaders 2-5. But this series history has been very back and forth. 9-9 here in Bender Arena.
Hello and welcome back inside Bender Arena. At halftime, Eagles leading 35-28 over Holy Cross. I'm Dan Legnato. I'm lucky enough now to be joined by AU alumnus Ari Booth, and a graduate just last year from this program. So thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
So as someone who played with a lot of these players on this team, I'm curious, what have you seen in some of the development of maybe some of the younger players, Emily and Maria, players like that who were young when you were here, and now kind of taking a bigger role? What What have you seen from them?
They're definitely a lot more aggressive, which is great for their game in particular, each of them. And I'm happy to see that. You know, it kind of took them a while to get that way last year and when they first came in. But it's good to see that they're finally starting to be more aggressive. It's good for the team.
And now, as an alumnus, I'm curious, what kind of advice would you give or do you give if you're talking to, Jordan and Lauren, somebody who is almost done with their career, what kind of would you tell them?
I would just tell them to stay patient, with the younger ones. Obviously, not quite a veteran group yet, but, Lauren and Jordan are veterans. So just to be patient, keep working in practice, and being examples that they are. And eventually, good things will happen.
And in terms of today's game, what have you seen from the team today and their performance, and what do you think they should adjust at halftime?
Well, first of all, the energy is great. Everyone's excited to be here. Everyone's ready to play. We just got to make a few adjustments, on the defensive end. Not really let the other team get settled in their sets and rebound a little more. They're killing us on the offensive rebound, so if we do that, get to the line more, it'll be a wrap.
Great. Thank you. That was Ari Booth, AU basketball alumnus. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll have halftime stats here on the Patriot League Network.
From Bender Arena in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Tonight, Patriot League basketball live on the Patriot League Network. Hi, everyone. Alongside Dan Lagnato, I'm Ethan Jenkins. As tonight, American will host the Navy Midshipmen. The Eagles coming in a bit of a skid, having lost 3 of their 4. Kind of the opposite for Navy. They've been on a tear this season, 13-2 in the league.
Yeah, Navy coming in winners of 4 straight after a bit of a surprise loss to Colgate. But really, they've been on a roll since the first conference game of the season. They opened against Bucknell, the current team they're tied with for first, and it's been smooth sailing ever since then.
Let's take a look at our players to watch tonight. We'll start first with American. Who you have your eyes on for today's game?
For the Eagles, it's definitely Marie Ledane. She's kind of the catalyst for this offense. She's actually about to pass her own record for 10th for an assist in a season, and she's on her way to 300 assists for her career. Also good for 10th in program history. And her fouling out actually last game was a big reason for the Eagles' late collapse offensively.
When we look at that last game against Holy Cross, as you said, Marie Ledane, the starting point guard, carrying a lot of that weight, but fouling out at the end led to that big comeback by Holy Cross.
Yeah, the Eagles scored just 4 points in that 4th quarter, and Ledane not being on the floor, likely a big part of that.
And then on the other side of the court for the Mids, Sarita Condi has been carrying a lot of the weight for this team.
Well, she is the leading scorer for the Mids this year, averaging 13 points. She also shoots almost 50% from deep at 48%. That's going to be a big part of the midshipman offense that the Eagles are going to have to contend with today.
For more on tonight's matchup, we'll send it to our sideline reporter, Liz Keller. What do you have for us, Liz? Bender Arena in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. It's Patriot League basketball live this afternoon on the Patriot League Network. Hi, everyone. Alongside Dan Lagnato, I'm Ethan Jenkins. And this afternoon, American will play host to the Loyola Greyhounds in Senior Day, coming off a game, the Eagles, in which they barely escaped with a 2-point win over Navy.
Yeah, they had at one point a 17-point lead in that game over Navy. Did end up squeaking it out by 2, and it was a big win for them as well, as it puts them in good position to be hosting a Patriot League quarterfinal game next week.
Yeah, if the Eagles win today, they will be able to host one of those quarterfinal matchups. On the other side of the court, we look at Loyola, a team that struggled as of late, hasn't won a game in almost a month.
Yeah, they've lost 7 straight and lost a heartbreaker just earlier this week against Army West Point by 1 point, especially after they got off to a quick start, could not hold on to their lead. They'll look to do better today against an Eagles team that has also struggled late in games.
And for Loyola, a bulk of their offense this year has come from Bree Betts-White, carrying a team-high 35 minutes per game.
She's also averaging over 15 points per game, the team's leading scorer, and just last week recorded her 1,000th career point as just a junior. So that alone should speak to the ferocity of her offense for this Loyola team.
And for the Eagles, it's Senior Day, so why not focus on Lauren Chrysler, one of the Eagles' senior starters, the only senior starter for American, approaching some milestones this afternoon.
She is. A couple rebounds short of 500 for her career. Also averaging 10 points per game this season, as well as 5 boards, as you can see. And it's been like sort of a quiet 10 points per game for Chrysler. She never explodes off the stat sheet. It's never 20-point games, but she always quietly contributes to the Eagles' offense.
Let's take a look at the team matchup for this afternoon for the Eagles, who enter 10-6 in the league, and Loyola 5-11 in the Patriot League.
Well, as you can see, the Eagles a bit of an edge in terms of shooting percentage, whereas rebounds and turnovers pretty even, and those are the areas where the Eagles have struggled this year. So they have a real chance to take advantage of those 2 categories today, and if they can do that, they could be looking at a home game in the quarterfinal.
For more on this afternoon's matchup, matchup. Let's send it over to our sideline reporter, Nick Papadis.